Recording in progress.
Hello, Commissioner Gill. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight at the Morris County Democratic Committee special election screening for the CD11 race. That's a lot to say, a lot to get through. I am, as you know, the chair, Darcy Drager, of the Morris County Democratic Committee, and I would like to take a moment before we get started to have all of our screening committee members who are present tonight introduce themselves to you. So we will start with John.
Hi, Brendan. John Aden, Florham Park, and Chair of the Florham Park Democrats.
Great. Good to see you again, John.
Good to see you.
Mayor Doherty.
Mayor Doherty. Hi, Brendan. How you doing? Mayor Doherty, Mayor Tim Doherty, Morristown, also the vice chair of the Democratic local committee in Morristown.
Great to see you, Mayor.
Christine.
Hi, Brendan. Good to see you. Christine Clark, member of the Democratic State Committee, Vice Chair in Jefferson, and a recent state Senate candidate.
And Sandra.
Hi, Commissioner Gill. This is Sandra Whitner, council member in Dover.
Great. Good to see you, Councilman. Good to see you, Christine.
And of course, we have Adam Cohen, our executive director, who is running everything for us electronically tonight. We do have other screening committee members who are not able to join us with 13 candidates. It's a lot of time and a lot of schedule juggling. So for any person who is unable to join us tonight, we are recording this. It will be made available to the screening committee, and it will be made available to our members after everyone has screened, so they have a chance to listen to your interview directly.
And hi, Brendan. I'm Sherry Seffer.
Oh, Sherry, I'm sorry. I missed you. I didn't see you on my screen.
It's good for all families. Stop. It's okay. Hi,
Sherry,
Brendan.
good to see you.
It's good to see you. I am the chair of the Montville Democratic Committee. Thanks for doing this.
No, thanks everybody for doing this. It's
one of our top canvassers in 2025 as well. All right.
The John.
Yeah, well, John Aden, our top canvasser. So thank you both. Commissioner Gill, we're going to get started. We would like to ask you a little bit about your vision and motivation. So, if you could take a few minutes to tell us about yourself and what inspired you to run for Congress in CD11, and what is the core message you'd like to bring to voters?
Yeah, no. So first of all, Darcy, thank you so much for this opportunity. Again, thank you to each and every one of you that's on the phone tonight. One of the things that I'm really, really proud of and also have enjoyed is the opportunity to spend time with each of you over the last many years. So thank each and every one of you for what you're doing, to help restore and save our democracy. It should be acknowledged and it doesn't go unnoticed that I'm sure there's a lot of things you could be doing at 7:30 tonight, but you're here, and I'm very honored that you're here to listen for a few minutes to kind of my vision of why I'm jumping into this race and why I would like to represent the 11th Congressional District in Congress. I started this campaign over a month ago now, almost a month ago. It seems like it was just yesterday, as they say. But we started with an event in front of my parents' home in Montclair. I'm born and raised in the township of Montclair. We did a press conference joined by 200 members of our community to support the kickoff of that campaign in front of the home that I was raised in front of the home that my parents still live in to this day. I'm the son of a union household. My dad is a public school teacher, recently retired, 53 years in the Montclair Public Schools. There were 5 of us in that house. We shared one bathroom, and I shared a bunk bed with my brother longer than I'd like to remember. But I had access to my version of the American dream. I was able to go to a good quality public school, get to college, and from there build a career, which I'll come to in a few seconds, doing the things that I loved doing, working on issues that I cared about, working for 2 members of Congress, 2 U.S. senators, going on to build my own business and to be able to live in the community that gave me so many of those opportunities. I now am married with my own kids, a 16 and a 13-year-old. Please keep me in your prayers on that. And I am concerned. I'm concerned about our country becoming unrecognizable in terms of the place that I know, in terms of the opportunities that were provided to me. And I am concerned about that generation, about what this country is going to look like for them, because so many of those elements of that American dream for my family are slipping away. My wife is Colombian American. She is the first Colombian American to serve in the New Jersey legislature. My kids are more Latino than anything else. I come from a multiracial family. And these issues that we're talking about today are not abstract. I will give you a quick anecdote, an example of that. And I think it kind of encapsulates as like why I'm running for this office and why I think it's a time to raise my hand. And for all of us, I should start by saying I'm glad that there's so many candidates in this race. I think it's such a good thing that we have this many candidates. Sorry, Darcy, I do think it's a good thing that we have this many candidates. But just recently, my 13-year-old, maybe about a month or maybe even a month and a half ago, was on the playground, and there was a I don't want to say a bullying incident, but there was an incident that I talk a lot about on the campaign trail, where she came home from school and she told us, she said, "Mom and Dad, I had some words with somebody on the playground, and the kid said to me, 'Well, don't worry about it, Kristen. You're going to be deported.'" And I was more worried, quite frankly, about the other child that might deport her in that situation. She was fine, and I don't, of course, blame the child, but that type of rhetoric that comes from what we are seeing at the national level, and it's seeping into all of our body politic, and it affects all of us. And that's what's motivating me in this race, not just for my own daughter, but for all of those types of families right now that are worried about what it's going to look like in the future. What is this country going to look like in the future? What do I think distinguishes my candidacy to address some of those issues that we know are before us is part of my own experience. Like I said, I was able to work for 2 members of Congress. My first job out of college was to be able to be a volunteer on Bill Pascrell's first campaign for Congress. Bill Pascrell actually represented, before this was District 11, this was actually District 8. Many of the Essex County communities that are in now District 11 were in his congressional district for over a 15, 20-year period of time before redistricting. But that's how I got my start. So I was able to work in his office, to go on to work in Congressman Steve Rothman's office, to go on to work for Senator Frank Lautenberg, the late Senator Frank Lautenberg, go on to work for Senator Cory Booker. And in between that, also I was lucky enough to be able to work and run campaigns. I was able to work on our now governor-elect Mikey Sherrill's first 2 campaigns for Congress. I was Governor Murphy's campaign manager. I was Senator Booker's campaign manager. I ran a bunch of races up and down the ballot. So I was able to both work on the official side and understand what these offices are all about and how they should operate and the kind of difference that they can make in people's lives in the districts that you seek to represent. And I was also able to empower people who cared about a lot of these issues through my work on political campaigns, where I got the opportunity to meet so many of the people that make up the fabric of these communities that I'm seeking to represent. So that's just a little bit of kind of in a nutshell about why I'm running, a little bit about who I am as an individual and as a person, and really what motivates me to want to be a part of this process and to serve and to hopefully be our next congressperson from the 11th Congressional District.
Thank you. John?
Thanks, Brandon. Next question is about policy, priorities, and solutions. So what are the top 2 or 3 issues that you plan to tackle if elected, and what specific solutions would you propose? Please move beyond describing problems and articulate actionable plans.
I appreciate that question, John, so much. And here's the good news, right? There's plenty of problems. So describing them is not hard, but coming up with solutions is the tough part for sure. So if I had the opportunity to serve, I think the first area and interest of me, both on that experience that I mentioned, would be around transportation and infrastructure. My experience working for 2 members of Congress and 2 U.S. senators allowed me to do a lot of work in that area. And New Jersey 11, which I'm going to call Morris County, Essex County and Passaic County depends heavily on reliable infrastructure, whether it's roads, bridges, New Jersey Transit, sewer systems that are being devastated by increasingly more severe storms. We need someone who's going to be a fighter can help us to continue to modernize that infrastructure. First and foremost, obviously, the Gateway Tunnel project is a key part of that. I would be honored to pick up, Mikey Sherrill has been called, the tunnel congresswoman. She was the fighter on that project each and every day. And I would want to pick up right where she left off to make sure that there's nothing more important to this region. It's a $12 billion investment in this region. It helps drive our economy. It's over, I believe, 200,000 plus jobs between the jobs that would be created from the project itself, and then the jobs that would come. And we need someone right now who would be in Washington, like both taking it to Trump based on what he's doing around that project, someone who knows and understands the relationships at the various agencies that are invested in that project, the Port Authority, the MTA, the New Jersey Transit on our side, who understands the funding lines and sources for that project. And I have that experience and knowledge, and I could put that experience and knowledge to work on day one. I would also want to be able to do things like fund local projects, like the Route 24 and Columbia Turnpike interchange, just for example. Something like on that granular a level, understanding that where those funding sources come from, and how you make sure that those projects are recommended by the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee when the budget process is going on. So it's a kind of a two-step approach to both to deliver on that. I would also fight to bring back federal tax dollars. As we know, we send more to Washington than we get back. We do have some good members of our delegation who are working on that issue every day. Mikey Sherrill worked on that issue explicitly. I would continue to work on that and to fight and to make sure that happens. So transportation and infrastructure would be probably a big priority for me if I had the opportunity to serve in the House. The second issue is the issue of healthcare and affordable healthcare. I would be committed to restoring, the ACA provisions that the Trump administration weakened are removed. Premiums are rising because of policy failures, and Congress needs to fix it. So the ACA is an essential thing for young adults, especially, and I'm going to fight to make sure that we protect that. I would oppose any and all proposals that cap or reduce any Medicaid funding. I would push legislation forward that would maintain Medicaid as an entitlement of coverage, and that automatically adjusts based on need rather than on arbitrary limits. I would do what I could to work on the issue of the cost of prescription drugs. I would work very closely to make sure that anything that's coming out of the federal government doesn't harm our seniors, meaning that I would work with our New Jersey partners to make sure that if there are cuts coming at the federal level, that people with disabilities, low-income families, children, and others would at least be protected maybe through our state alternative. That is why we all work so hard to make sure that Mikey Sherrill was the next governor. So we have partners in Trenton that we can work on that. I would push for temporary increases in federal matching rate during economic or public health crises, and I would work very closely again with both Governor Sherrill and our cabinet officials to secure waivers that bring in federal grants, strengthen the ACA subsidies, modernize care delivery, and protect our safety net hospitals, so we can ensure that New Jersey does not lose care because of what's coming out of the federal government. Finally, and last but not least, and I apologize for the length of this answer, and I'm trying to fit a lot in. I would want to spend a lot of time on economic development and innovation. And when I say that, I mean two things. First and foremost, tax fairness and equity. Billionaires, right, not paying their fair share. Middle class folks getting hammered in terms of our tax rates, and we're not doing enough to promote economic development in this region. What do I mean when I say that? And this is not to be critical of anyone that we just went through in the campaign. We just went through an entire gubernatorial campaign where the issue of AI was barely even touched on, was barely even talked about, right? We have huge changes in our economy that are coming in the next 5 years, 3 to 5 years. I understand this. I'm a small business owner. I run a small business that's a service-oriented business in a service-oriented economy that may fundamentally change in the next 3 to 4 years based on the technologies that are coming down the pike and or that already exist. We need someone who's in this seat that understands that can understand where the jobs not only today exist and that we want to protect, but where the jobs in the future are going to be, and to be on the front line of those conversations. We also have, as you know, 7 companies, right, control the entire S&P 500. 7 companies, right? They control everything that we see, hear, and consume on these devices, right? And we need people in Congress right now that can put the guardrails in place to make that are not there right now. We don't have people, in my opinion, in Washington right now who are doing enough on that issue. So I would want to be doing kind of using the platform of this office in order to address those issues, because I think ultimately they get to this word that we hear a lot about, which is affordability, right? That's the other thing about why we don't have that promise of the next generation. How do our kids, how are they going to be able to afford to be able to be in the region that they grew up in? How are people like my parents going to be able to afford to age in the home that they raised their family in if we don't collectively work on issues around this that are both driven by economic development in the region, driven by innovation in the region, are directly affected to providing affordable health care, making other investments in infrastructure and transportation. They're kind of all interrelated, right, that get us to being able to work on protecting, again, that the American dream, so to speak, for that next generation.
Thank you. Christine.
Hi, Brendan.
Hey.
Hey. So I get to ask you about your experience and qualifications. Specifically, how does your background and professional experience prepare you to represent CV11 effectively in Congress?
I appreciate that question. So I touched on it a little bit before. I think that I'm the only candidate in this race. We have a lot of great candidates in this race, but I think I'm the only candidate in this race that brings both sets of experiences that I think you need to be an effective representative in Congress. I have the federal experience. As I said, I've worked for 2 members of Congress. I've worked for 2 United States senators. So I understand federal process. I'm not unfamiliar with how these offices should operate in terms to serve their constituents. And I will be able to do all of that on day one. But I've also been firmly planted and rooted in my home community. I've been a member of the Essex County Board of Commissioners as an elected official for over 10 years now. And that experience has allowed me both to work hand in hand with mayors, council folks, community leaders, nonprofit leaders. No one is going to have to educate me on who or what is important right now to these communities. And I think you need both of those things in order to be a highly effective member of Congress. You need to understand the communities that you're seeking to represent. And by the way, not just in Essex County, because I can speak to Morris County too, because of the federal experience that I've had. I've been able to be on the ground in these communities as well. So I'm not unfamiliar with leadership in certain places. I'm not unfamiliar with who community members are, and I'm not unfamiliar with what some of the pressing needs are in the individual communities that make up the 11th congressional district. So what is most important to me, I think, is a person that can, in my opinion, who can put both of those things to work. And by the way, I just realized that I'm going to use this a little bit. I just realized in answering this question that I didn't also talk about the other most fundamental thing, and the most other fundamental reason I'm running is we also need somebody who every day is going to be fighting the existential threat to our democracy that's coming out, from Donald Trump. We have an authoritarian leader that needs to be stopped. We have a MAGA Republican movement that needs to be stopped, and you need to be doing that at the same time that you're also fighting and delivering for your district. I think they are both interrelated. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. And again, I think in terms of the question of why am I, what is my background and professional experience? Well, my background and professional experience has not only been working for members of Congress, not only been working on the ground, delivering. I think that's why you saw so many endorsements for my campaign on day one. It was because these were relationships that have been built over time because I deliver for the constituents that I have been given the opportunity to represent, in public office. And I think that I think that gives me a kind of a little bit of an edge on some of the other people who are seeking this office, because I'm not going to need a GPS to find any place in this district. I'm not going to have to be educated quickly on what, or have to spend a lot of time learning these things, because the person that comes in here, they potentially could be sworn in April, right? And they got to hit the ground running. And we don't have, in my opinion, as much of that time to do that. Finally, this thing I would say that qualifies me for this position is that I'm a coalition builder. I'm a grassroots leader. That's where I started, and that's where I live. I've been honored to lead one of the most progressive local Democratic organizations in the whole state of New Jersey, in the Montclair Democratic County Committee, local Montclair Democratic Party. And that experience in doing that work, I think, contributes directly to what potentially would make me a successful member of Congress, is that you have to be able to organize, and you got to be able to build coalitions. And I think the organizing and coalition experience is important of how we're going to get out of this mess that's coming out of Washington.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Doherty, I think that touches on the question that you're about to ask.
Okay. Hi, Brendan.
Hey, Mayor.
My question is in leadership and collaboration. So Congress requires negotiation and coalition building. Can you give an example from your career where you successfully worked across differences to achieve a goal?
So I appreciate, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that question. I'll use two examples at the local level that I think illustrate how I achieved a goal through coalition building, through organizing, and through putting my skill set, so to speak, to work on behalf of my constituents. The first is in the creation of it was called the Essex Hudson Greenway. It's now called the Greenway. For those of you who don't know, the Greenway is a 9-mile rail line that starts in Montclair and connects all the way to Jersey City. It is the first state park, transformational state park that's been created in a generation. I worked on it for over a decade. It is going to be New Jersey's version of the High Line. It is going to be a passive, active recreation trail that's going to allow biking, walking, non-traditional forms of transportation to connect both Lower Manhattan to Jersey City, all the way into Essex County, and then also connect to trails that connect into Morris County. It's going to get to Morris. It's a big picture idea, but this 9-mile old freight line, which was defunct, this project, I should say, was brought to my attention when I was sworn in as a commissioner, going all the way back to 2012. And it was a group of activists, elected officials, and community leaders who said, listen, we have an idea that could improve the quality of health in our region. We have an idea that can help drive economic development in our region. We have an idea that can be on the forefront of helping New Jersey to continue to be a leader in protecting open spaces. And everyone has told us that it will never happen. They told us it can happen. And for the next decade, working with those individuals, and I think this is what this role is all about, we went to work on building community support, grassroots support, federal support from our federal partners, state support, to eventually we got to the place where we can now say the Greenway is a reality. It is fully funded. It is not all the way completed, but Governor Murphy cut the ribbon on that project this summer. It is no longer a question of if, it's now just a question of when. And that project itself illustrates, I think, what someone in this role needs to be able to do. They need to understand funding streams. They need to understand community relationships. They need to understand how state, federal, county, and municipal governments interact. And they need to be able to put all of that experience to work for the betterment of the communities that they serve. And I'm proud that probably, if I do nothing else ever again in this space, I'm really proud of the legacy of that project. The second thing that I would highlight is that at the local level is that I was the leader in the county of Essex to get us out of our ICE contract. By the way, before this was a fashionable thing, and I would say, quite frankly, and I say that tongue in cheek, in democratic politics, the county of Essex, when the federal government provided money to local governing agencies in order to house non-immigration detainees, it was a Biden and Obama era policy that meant $50 million of revenue to the county of Essex, but it was wrong. It was morally wrong, and we shouldn't have had the contract then. And I was the leader. I stood up to people in my own party. I stood up to our county executive. I stood up to U.S. senators. I stood up to all the way up to presidents, not that they cared what I had to say, but I was an outspoken critic of that policy. And I built a coalition, not just me, by the way, not just me, but I was able to use the vehicle of my office in working with activists and working with community leaders and working with families who had people who were unfortunately detained. We were being, again, reimbursed for revenue reimbursement for housing, immigration detainees just for status. I thought it was blood money. I said we shouldn't accept it, and eventually, guess what? We were able to get the county of Essex out of that contract, and then also to help be a part of a movement that wasn't just me, that led the state of New Jersey and the federal government to outlaw those types of contracts. And I think that that's an example of the kind of work that you would see from me if I had the opportunity to serve. To jump into those issues, even, by the way, when you have to take on members of your own party, when you think it's the right thing to do. And that wouldn't have got done unless ultimately what got all of that done was using the office position that I had, and still have at this time as an Essex County Commissioner, as a platform for all those various groups to be a part of a centralized movement to get us out of the contract. So that would just be two specific examples of how I think this office should operate and the way that it should run.
Thank you. Sandra. Oh, you're muted. Ah.
There we go. Okay. All right, Brendan, please
Hey.
describe your efforts to help elect Democrats at the local, state, or federal level.
So on this one, I'll put my record up against anybody. I've done it. I started as a volunteer. I started as a district leader. I do believe in the importance of party. When I say parties, politics, in the sense of what they can do to help support and elect people that make the changes that we care about. So I think it's important just to highlight, like, I got involved in public service as a volunteer because on a baseline level, I just wanted to make a difference in the community. That was what I wanted to do. And I saw the support, I saw supporting and working for various candidates as a way to do that. So I have worked first and foremost on campaigns, whether it be volunteer or in a paid capacity and leadership roles. I've held almost every role for better or for worse. But for the most part, I'm proud to say, on some winning campaigns, whether it be serving, as I said, as Senator Booker's campaign manager, serving as Governor Murphy's campaign manager, serving as the late Frank Lautenberg's campaign manager, both in primary and general elections. I'm proud to say that that some of those campaigns made history in the state of New Jersey. And electing Senator Booker, we elected the first African-American United States Senator in the history of this state. and electing Phil Murphy. I also elected Phil, not just me, but led the effort that elected Phil Murphy and Sheila Oliver, the first African-American woman to serve as a statewide office holder in this state. And electing Senator Lautenberg, and even being part of his last campaign, Senator Lautenberg, who made a huge difference on the issue of environment, transportation. I mean, I can go down the list of things that he actually accomplished that we can thank him to this day for, but he ended up being the longest serving United States Senator in New Jersey history. So part of what I've done to be a part of this process is to try to help elect good people who have made a difference in this state. And last but certainly not least, I was a part of helping to elect Mikey Sherrill as a congresswoman from this district, and a district that everyone said we never had a chance to win, that there was no shot, that she shouldn't run. I'm sure even I probably was kind of tepid on it when she first approached me about it, like most people were. But so I take a lot of pride in that. At the local level, I've been an organizer. That's how I help get Democrats elected. I lead the Montclair Local Democratic County Committee. We historically have an active organization with boots on the ground, phone banking, canvassing, helping to produce some of the largest pluralities for all of our Democrats in each individual cycle. Just this year, we helped organize 2 of the largest No King rallies that were held in this state. And they were organized through the work that we did through the Montclair, a lot of partners, but a lot of work done through the Montclair Democratic County Committee to make those things happen. And my small hope is that that was helpful to help electing Mikey and all of our down ballot candidates throughout this district. Many of you joined me at those rallies. Many of you were there, and we were proud to have you with us. So I use as an example, again, to illustrate the type of work that we've done to help elect Democrats. Just 2 years ago, the Montclair Democratic County Committee, we sent over 30 plus buses, for better or for worse. That's what we were asked to do. But 30 buses, 1,500 volunteers, almost a week were being sent into Pennsylvania. Again, many of you saw that work. You were there as part of helping us do that. So those are examples, of the things that I think I've tried to do to show my commitment to help elect Democrats up and down this ballot and across this state.
Thank you. We're now moving on to some of our candidate-specific questions, and the first 2 we asked to all candidates. So you are currently running in the special election to fulfill Mikey's remaining term through January 2027. Should you not win the nomination and go on to the general and the special election, would you plan to stay in the race and run in the regular primary and the regular in June?
Absolutely not. And I think that that's critically important right now, that we give whoever wins this primary and who has to win a general election a little bit of runway, because keep in mind the filing deadline, which I don't even think we know what it is yet. The filing deadline for the June primary may be before the election day that we have set in April, right? So we don't necessarily even know what that's going to look like as a tactical matter. But I think the most important thing I would just say, more broadly speaking, is we don't have time for that. Like if you want to represent this district, you need to be in this race right now. Right now, you should have been in this race right now, because whoever comes out of both this primary and general election is going to need our help, right? Not only in June, but in November. And I think that they should. And by the way, I'm for primaries. I'm for everybody jumping in. But at some part too, we have a huge threat coming out of Washington, and we got to be smart too, right? We got to be smart too. That there's that line. Republicans fall in line and Democrats fall in love, right? And at some point, we need to fall in line, right, and get behind whoever comes out of this race. So you have my 100% commitment that I would not in any way try to file if something didn't work. If I lost the primary, I wouldn't, not get behind. I will be behind whoever wins this primary in February. I will be behind that person. I hope it's me, but if it's not, I will be behind that person day one to make sure that they're the next congressperson from this district. The stakes are too high for any of that nonsense.
Thank you. The next question, I think you've actually already answered, which is what legislation that you were a lead sponsor of are you most proud of? And I certainly feel that your Greenway project and your the ICE adequately answers that, more than adequately answers that. So I'm going to go on to the candidate specific question. And I don't know if you've heard this, Brendan, but some critics have called you the machine candidate. And they have implied that party politics have too much weight in your policy priorities. And so, how would you respond? And how would you ensure that the policies that you pursue in Congress reflect the real needs and concerns of CD11 residents?
No, and I appreciate this question, Darcy, actually a lot. And I think again, I would ask this campaign. There's two things. I'm greatly concerned about the labeling, so to speak, that exists within our party right now. I have no issue with anyone who wants to get involved. What I do have an issue with is trying to put people into boxes, so to speak, because we need a broad-based coalition to get this country back on track. And I don't question anyone's motivations when they get involved. I don't think it's my place to do so. What I do is judge people on their record and their actions. And what I would say to people in that space who may have this perception of me, that they judge me based on the issues that I have fought for and on. And I believe that those issues are far from not from satisfying some kind of nefarious machine political interest. They have been specifically and directly related to the people, again, that I had the opportunity to represent. So whether you're talking about fights around earned sick leave that I was involved in, raising the minimum wage, and working on transportation and infrastructure, the Greenaway, issues around immigration, the extension of the earned child tax credit, tax fairness, like you're going to see that I have a long record on those issues, on a lot of issues that are considered to be in the progressive wing of our party. I'll stand by my record any day on those issues. And then the other way that I would answer this question is to, judge this campaign based on who's supporting it. Because this campaign, I'm really proud to say that this campaign right now is one of only two in this whole race that has endorsements from a wide range of people and labor organizations that make up this district. There's only two candidates right now that I'm aware of in this race that have anything even close to that. And those include people that are not machine politicians. I don't think Senator Brittany Timberlake, one of the most progressive champions that we have in the New Jersey legislature, would ever be considered a machine politician. I was proud to help elect Renee Baskerville, the first African-American mayor of Montclair, who would never be perceived as a machine politician. Carmen Morales, the first Puerto Rican woman to represent the 34th Congressional Assembly District. Go down those lists of people that are with me. Those aren't just endorsements or machined endorsements or party endorsements. Those are endorsements of people who have dedicated their life. And why I get a little emotional about this issue is because when I hear this stuff, you can say whatever you want about me. I can take it. But you know what? When you start talking about the people in that way that support me, I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that because they don't deserve that. They don't deserve these kind of tags. They don't deserve to be talked about in a way that disparages their service, to their communities and to this party. Finally, I would say that also look at a couple of the other endorsements that I received when I launched this campaign. They were from nonprofit community leaders, not just elected officials and politicians. On that day of my announcement, we had, just to give you an example, we had 4 speakers that day. Melissa Walker, she runs Jazz House Kids. She is a leader in arts education. She spoke on behalf of our campaign that day. She's not a machine politician. Deborah Kagan, the executive director of the New Jersey Bike and Walk Coalition. who's been a leader on transportation and infrastructure and transportation and alternative issues, spoke on behalf of our campaign to that day. She's not a machine politician. Ann Marin, who runs Tony's Kitchen, which services a lot of food insecurity issues across this district, spoke on behalf of our campaign that day. She's not a machine politician. Mitch Heisler, who ran one of our largest nonprofit, he was a past president of one of our largest nonprofit recreational sports leagues, spoke on behalf of our campaign that day. He's not a machine politician. And what I'm saying in answering that question is that if you really look at the people and coalitions that I have built and that are already supporting this campaign, they are about trying to bring people together, not about trying to divide people. And that is what I'm concerned about right now. I'll be very blunt. I'm concerned about some of the rhetoric already in this primary, because there seems to be some candidates who are more concerned on trying to identify what is good support versus bad support, rather than talking about what they're going to do and how they're going to all bring us together to make sure that we win in April.
Sorry, I'd muted myself. Thank you so much, Brendan. Excellent. This concludes the core part of our interview. We now have a brief policy lightning round where it's simple yes or no questions, and Christine is going to ask those.
All right.
Hello. So these should be pretty easy, I hope, but just in case we have to ask, do you support access to affordable health care for all, including protections for pre-existing conditions?
Yes.
Great. Do you support policies that promote racial, gender, and LGBTQ plus equity?
Yes.
Do you support policies to address climate change and expand clean energy?
Yes.
Do you support reproductive rights, including a woman's right to choose?
Absolutely. Yes.
Do you support protecting and expanding voting rights?
Yes.
Do you support comprehensive immigration reform, including a path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, excellent.
Can I also just say, I've actually not only supported all those things, I've actually done something about it. So I just want to throw that in there. Not only supported them, I got a track record on every one of those issues.
Excellent. Thank you. That's a great thing to point out. Does anyone, any of the other screening committee members have a question or a follow-up question based on anything that Commissioner Gill has shared with us this evening?
Yeah, I have a quick question. And great answers, great answers. You've been doing this a long time at a lot of different levels, a lot of different campaigns, a lot of different offices. So what is it that makes you happy about it?
That's a great question, John. I mean, I love this part of the process. I'll tell you right now that, locking myself in a room, I'm being the candidate right now, and I've now know why a lot of the advice that sometimes I gave was never followed. So finding ways to get out of call time, I will always be game for that. But what really makes me happy, John, is building those relationships when you do this work. That it wasn't just the delivery, and I say this humbly. I think if you listen to some of the testimony that was given at that announcement, and people just spoke from the heart. What made me really happy is they didn't just say that I answered their call and I delivered on what they asked for, because that's what you're supposed to do that. No one should be patting you on the back for doing your job, and that's what an elected official is supposed to do. But they said things like he listened. They said things like he followed up again, and they highlighted the long-term nature of those relationships, and I say very humbly that that made me happy. I was glad that my daughter and actually I couldn't get my son to even come to. He's 16. He wanted nothing to do with the announcement, but my daughter was smart enough. My daughter was smart enough to understand that was going to get her out of school for the day. He didn't connect that dot. But I was happy, quite frankly, to hear that, to have those things. I'm very blessed to have my parents still with me. I had other family members there still with me. and to kind of hear people saying those things about you, so your family could hear those things, your neighbors could hear those things. Really, really, makes me happy. And last but not least, I talk about this too a lot on the trail. That home that I was raised in, my parents still are. It took my dad 14 banks a mortgage, 14 banks to get a mortgage for that home. And the reason it took him 14 banks to get a mortgage for that home was because Montclair, like a lot of other places, were redlined. And there was an African American family on the left and an African American family on the right. And the person who eventually gave my dad wanted to live in the community that he was working in. And it took him a while to be able to find somebody who was willing to do that, because person after person told him, Mr. Gill, you don't want to live there. And the bank that eventually he threatened to sue, that then they gave him the mortgage, was we would once a month. Now, I would not always go, but when I was a young man, the person that told him that, he would make sure to go to that community bank and pay him in person. And he would take me sometimes because he wanted that individual to know who we were as a family, and what we were all about. And I'm very, I learned a lot from that lesson. I learned more from the lesson at his kitchen table probably than I ever did. I was not a good student, so probably than I ever did in school in that capacity. But what it made me ultimately the happiest was that family that lived next door to my parents, that African American family. They still live in Montclair. They don't live there anymore, but they found out that I was announcing to run for Congress, and they came to the announcement that day. They came to the announcement that day, and I think it recognized kind of our commitment to the community that we were in, and that not only made me proud, but it made me happy. It made me happy to see that and to be with them. So
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, guys, we are pretty much bumping up against our time limits. Sherry, do you have a brief question?
And I apologize
Yeah.
for the length of my answers. I
No,
should.
they're important. It's okay, Brendan. I just was wondering if you might speak briefly to any Morris County centric issues that you feel should be addressed as part of your platform.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, I think one of the things that would be probably part of my platform specific to Morris County would again fall into the two buckets of infrastructure and economic development. So just this past Saturday, I had the opportunity to do small business walks in Boonton and Morristown. And just as an example, in Boonton, there is, in talking to the small business owners that day, the issue of redeveloping that theater in that main street downtown is critical to drive the economic vitality of that entire downtown and that region. It's a big picture idea that needs the help of a congressional office to merge the EDA and federal funding and maybe some nonprofit and grant funding to make that a reality. And I would want to have issues like that and projects like that in Morris County, a big staple of what I would be doing each and every day. I talked a little bit about the Route 24, Columbia Turnpike. I've talked a lot about what's going on in the areas of healthcare. You have you have an anchor institution in your county that employs a lot of people, right? Not that is critical to the economic. I would want to make sure that I was working closely with, using that as an example of people that are in this district and are employing people in this district and are important to its own economic vitality, so people can continue to enjoy the region that they live in. Because during this campaign, and again, I'm not new to these communities, but what comes across is there are many, many people in Morris County, just like I am here, who love where they are, and they want to stay there. They want to be able to be there. So they're talking about issues of affordability to me. They're talking about healthcare, price of healthcare, access to public education, access to public transportation and infrastructure needs that help drive that economy. And I would want to incorporate all those things into my platform going forward.
Thank you. All right, guys, we are going to have to wrap this up. Brendan, I'll give you a minute to just close us out, but thank you very much for your your time tonight and for your excellent responses to the questions.
No, I first of all, I appreciate that. I appreciate your time. Again, I hope when you're evaluating making this decision, that we look at the totality of what someone can bring to the position. I do believe that that's important, not just as a campaign issue, because it is a campaign issue, because it will define a lot about the type of representation that I think we all deserve. You know, first and foremost, I'm a resident of this district. I'm a constituent too, right? So I know the type of representation that I would like to see, you know, here going forward. And I'm hoping, based on all the various things that I was able to touch on with you tonight, those various experiences, the delivery on those issues, the passion and enthusiasm to do the job, my own personal story, so you help understand a little bit about me as a person and what drives me, that leads you to be able to support me. I would be honored to have your support. I would be honored to have the support of the Morris County Democratic Organization. I think ultimately that I understand also what these offices mean, and I should have worked this into one of my answers before, but I did want to highlight it. I know what these offices means to political organizations. Like, there needs to be collaboration and partnership with this organization, with whoever fills this seat, and you will have that with me, and it will be a very short conversation. You will not have to explain to me what the priorities are, where you need me to be in terms of how my office operates, because good government is good politics, and the type of support that you potentially need to run what I believe is going to be the next. You know, everyone talks about Monmouth. I talk about Morris, right? Like, we are right on the cusp, and you need a strong partner in this office, which is what I would be, to do all the things that I know you, every person who's on this call tonight, cares about. So again, I'd be honored to have your support. I look forward to being able to continue to work with you each and every day, no matter however this turns out. I will be here always for you. And thank you again for what each of you are doing to help protect our democracy. I can't thank you enough.
Great. Thank you so much, Commissioner Gill. We appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you at our convention on December 14th.
Thank you. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.